What is going on, guys, and welcome to ForTheFans with me, Jack, and my co-host Ben. And today we're going to be taking a look back to yesterday's action as Germany and France reigned supreme before taking a look forward to today's action where Belgium beat the USA, and in the earlier tie of the day, Argentina will be taking on little old Switzerland. Let's get straight into this.
Day 20, it's For The Fans Show podcast. Jack, how are you doing?
I'm decent, thank you, Ben. How are you doing? I never
I'm doing
ask
great.
You. Actually, that's a lie. I always ask you. That's a complete lie.
And we are guestless once again.
We are. We're all by ourselves.
Nobody wants us. Shall we get straight into it? There was some good football yesterday. It was, as you mentioned in the intro, it was the Africans taking on the Europeans
can I
in two mammoth affairs.
Can I change the subject for 2 minutes? I just want to discuss another African nation who have been thrown into the limelight. I feel like we go into the matches too soon these days, especially without a guest.
Okay.
It all moves too fast for me. So I want to talk about Cameroon.
Oh, no. I know where this is going.
And the match fixing. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this. Because allegedly, a very well-known match fixer who's banned from betting bet on them to have a red card in the first half.
Right.
There's 7 bad eggs. I think that's actually the term they've been using.
Bad apples, actually.
Bad apples. What's the difference between a bad egg and a bad apple? I'll tell you what it is. A bad apple's rotten to the core. I've just made that up. Anyway,
you can tell.
What do you think? What is that a legitimate thing to be concerned about?
Well, I think we should wait until anything is confirmed or...
We're not the BBC. It's not like we have to be censored and be all
but I haven't got anything to say. Like, what can I tell you, Jack? Sorry, listeners.
Does it shock you? Does it disappoint you as a football fan to think that the World Cup might be fixed? The games you watch might not be actually what's happening.
I'm not like, oh my god, this is unbelievable. But if it's true, then it's a disgrace, and they should be banned from future World Cups.
Because apparently allegations were made by a German newspaper, Der Spiegel, by a convicted match fixer from Singapore.
Okay, well, I guess we'll find out, won't we? It was a bizarre red card, but it was Alex Song, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, like, you think he wouldn't need the money if it was
the perfect plan.
Well, okay. Well, fair enough. Can we please talk about some stuff which is actually happening and real?
Are you saying match fixing isn't a real problem in modern football, Ben?
I'm saying that it's not to be discussed by us at the start of a podcast.
Oh, okay. Let's move on.
France 2, Nigeria 0. It went as expected, kind of.
I think they threw it.
Is this going to be a theme throughout today's podcast that you're going to think every team that lost?
I think I jokingly mentioned this a few podcasts ago that there was match fixing going on. I think it was Ghana, not Cameroon, I accused.
Okay.
But no, France were terrible.
Well, they started with Giroud and Benzema, and it went okay against the Swiss. Didn't go very well against Nigeria. They looked really impotent. It wasn't what I expected at all from the French. Nigeria started really hot. Like, we were watching it and chatting at the same time, and we both said that we thought Nigeria really were France looked panicked. They weren't the only side yesterday to look panicked early on, but France looked a little bit shocked at the fact Nigeria were like, well, we're just going to attack, and you're going to have to deal with this. And that's what happened. And Nigeria went close early on.
They did.
They on a couple of occasions, they weren't far away. Emenike had a goal ruled out, you might remember.
I do remember.
Which was a bit contentious. He was just off. Just off. So that's fair enough. But no, the French, they've been quite good this tournament. We've raved about them on occasion. And yesterday, what did you think about the Benzema-Giroud thing then? Because it was a bit odd. Valbuena was back, and so was Kapai, but...
There was... I don't know what shape they played against Ecuador. I think it might have been a 4-4-2. Or was it 4... They definitely didn't play at quite the same shape they played today. They went back to the 4-3-3 they played against Switzerland. And that was obviously a game that they scored a lot in, but also conceded too late on in. And, I mean, you can claim that's complacency, but to me, it just wasn't working for them today. I thought... was it Effie Ambrose, actually, of all people, who was like matching Benzema at right back for Nigeria? I thought he had a pretty solid game, to be honest. Yeah. To be fair, the entire defence for Nigeria was fairly resilient, and Nigeria always looked like they were going to hit on the break. They obviously had Musa, Odawingi and Moses starting for them, and that kind of speed, I kind of felt like uncharacteristically perhaps, like there was just a little bit of space in behind Matuidi, Kabai and Pogba that was just there to be exploited.
Yeah, they looked a little bit complacent, I thought, the French, which is unlike the French in this tournament. Aside from, against Ecuador, they did look a little bit kind of, job done. And it felt like they went into this game feeling like it would be done before it was done. Yeah. It felt like they started the game at about 70 minutes, by which I mean as it kicked off, it felt like they'd been playing a half already, and they were kind of winning at that point. And
it felt to me, like neither team particularly. I don't want to say neither team wanted to go forward, but most of their passes were just kind of in the centre. It was a game that was very much bogged down in the middle until, as you mentioned, Emenike had that goal disallowed for offside. But until that point, there'd really been no kind of... I don't want to say there'd been no attempt to get into the opposition box, but it was kind of... I don't know, both teams seemed pretty happy just to try and keep the ball as best they could in the midfield. Yeah,
France did have chances, though. The Pogba volley was kind of... It was straight at Enyema, but it was a decent hit. And Pogba actually played quite well. Pogba was one of France's better players, I thought, yesterday. Considering he's so young, I felt like he dragged them through it a little bit at times. I was impressed with Nigeria. I'd said in the show yesterday, I said the same thing for Algeria as I did Nigeria, that if they start well and put the so-called better team on the back foot early, then they might get something out of it. And Nigeria just never were quite clinical enough. And the French, we keep saying it, but I was so disappointed because I want them to be quite... And the next game they've got, they'll play Germany, won't they?
Yeah, they need to be alive for that.
Well, so do the Germans, but the French especially so.
It was kind of curious because Koscielny and Varane, it's the first time they've played at centre-back together this game. And so I don't know if that little bit of kind of... I want to say unfamiliarity with kind of what each of them's going to be doing held them back. As you mentioned, Pogba was very solid in the middle. I think Matuidi in the first 25 minutes didn't win the ball back once and actually gave away 2 fouls.
Yeah, I thought he was really poor, actually. He's had a decent tournament, and I thought yesterday was his worst game of the tournament. I thought
he was noticeably bad. I felt Varane had a lot of an odd kind of strong influence on the game for a centre-back.
There was no Saka, obviously, because he was injured yesterday, and he'd been a regular fixture in that squad. In that starting 11 even, and he wasn't there yesterday. And I think he's had a few critics in the Premier League this season, but I think for France, especially this tournament, he's been particularly good. Obviously they've kept a clean sheet, so you can't really whinge too much, and their defence is quite experienced. Just like Varane, although he's quite young, has had a couple of years to bed in at Real Madrid. So if there's any way you're going to learn quickly, it's probably playing for Real. But obviously then Griezmann came on 62 minutes. Giroud went off, Benzema went up top, Griezmann came out to the left. Valbuena still had himself on the right-hand side. And they suddenly looked a much better side. A lot more dynamic, a lot more attacking, a lot more natural. Yeah, well, France were very one-dimensional. All of their play was coming down the right-hand side. Debuchy had a fair bit of the ball, Valbuena and Pogba. And I kind of think that was out there. I don't know if that was the reason that Matuidi and perhaps Benzema, when he was playing out on the left, appeared to have such bad games, was simply because all the play was coming down the right, and on the rare occasion where it did go out the left, they didn't do a lot with it. Or whether it was simply a case of early on, it was kind of a case of, well, they're not playing quite well, we're getting some luck down our right, let's just keep with it. It was like Deschamps thought that with the Giroud Benzema thing, it was like he thought, well, if one of them doesn't score, the other one will. Yeah. And it happened that neither of them really did. It seemed to me like playing Benzema on the left of a 3 just seems wrong, because he would never be doing it for his club team, and he's clearly not very good at it, because he's just not. And this isn't really me having a go at him. It's just he's never done it. He doesn't work hard enough to play that position. I think like against Switzerland he did a better job of it, but I think the reason he did a better job of it was because he kind of roamed. He did go out on the right on the odd occasion. He kind of had that permission to kind of float behind Giroud. Also against Switzerland, Liechtenstein got forward quite a lot, so that gave Benzema the chance to float and be in quite a lot of space every time France decided to break. So that was probably the major difference. Where Nigeria kind of sat back a little bit more, as you mentioned, Ambrose. Yeah, well, Nigeria, it was kind of like they had, is it Ambrose? Ambrose was a big kind of threat for them down their right back. He really, pushed up the field, and that I don't know, it forced Benzema to track back a little bit uncharacteristically. I think another kind of reason that Benzema really struggled to get into the game was actually, is it Onazi? The centre mid for Nigeria, and Mikel. Between them, they were winning a lot of the play in the centre, and I kind of feel like they probably won that midfield battle between kind of them two, and then Cabaye and Matuidi particularly. I know Pogba kind of found a little bit more space to roam, but for me, Nigeria's main strength was just their core. Amero and Yobo perhaps scored the own goal at the end, perhaps a little bit unlucky there, but they looked solid at the back, Nigeria, and that was I don't know if it was a case of them being solid because they look solid, or whether it was a case of France just not being particularly clinical and just not being able to find those killer passes. Yeah, but as we mentioned, so France went 1-0 up, Pogba got the goal, Nice finish. And then it seemed from that moment on that Nigeria were kind of spent. It felt to me like they were kind of, we were trying to win this 1-0, and that's now not going to work. And as the game went on, Griezmann has been given the goal. No, he hasn't been given the goal. Sorry, he was given the goal immediately. But as we know, the FIFA and the English punditry teams aren't watching the same game as we are, and it kind of flicks off Yobo and goes in, does it not? So that was 2-0 France. What did you make on the whole? What did you make of the French and Nigeria? Just it's to summarise.
Nigeria impressed me. As I mentioned, Onazi, who actually went off, I think, 10 minutes into the second half, I thought he had a really solid first half in terms of recycling the play for them. I felt like he was one of the key players in terms of cutting out any French passing and kind of winning the ball high up the field for them. France, it's not a major worry, this, because they did win 2-0 in the end, but coming up against Germany, I think it'll be interesting to see how they shape up. As of course we'll come on to with Germany. Germany looked really susceptible to the break against Algeria. There were a few times where Neuer was basically playing a sweeper role. I mean, his heat map was outside the area, was like his average position by the end of it.
Are we going on to Germany? Because I just want to mention a few quotes from the French manager. And
you hit the quotes, but what I was going to say was I think France might have a little bit more luck with a team like Germany who are willing to commit a few more men forward and play a high line.
Deschamps said, I'll quote what Deschamps said after the game. He said, "We had a very strong last half an hour with more dynamism and speed." That was obviously when Griezmann came on. We had space to create chances and we could have scored quite a few times. I tried to create more speed by bringing on Griezmann and tried to exploit the space with short passes, and it worked. Interestingly, and we'll come on to Germany in a second, Germany aren't playing this tournament with natural fullbacks, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in a minute. So that idea of playing Griezmann one side, Valbuena the other, Benzema through the middle, may just be the key. Obviously, they're without Ribery, who would inevitably have played every game. Interestingly, the Nigeria coach, not happy, Stephen Keshi, he said, "I thought the referee made a lot of mistakes and was very lenient towards the French players." Did you think it was a particularly one-sided affair in terms of refereeing decisions?
I thought the ref didn't have that many decisions to make, in all honesty.
I thought he was okay.
I think the big one, the offside, was a right call. I can't think of that many kind of, particularly biased kind of refereeing decisions. I think he's just a bit bitter, Ben. I've got to be honest.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not like a manager to go out of a tournament to then say some ridiculous things. It's at Uruguay.
No.
So never mind. So we've touched on him a little bit. Manuel Neuer's Germany. He's an interesting character.
He loves it. I feel like he thinks he's Beckenbauer, but with gloves.
He's my favourite libero of the past 10 years. If you don't know what a libero is, it's like a sweeper, but usually deployed by an outfield player, where Neuer is like, well, Mertesacker is slow as shit, so I'm going to have to just do the little job behind him. Every time it goes over his head, I'll deal with that. And I tweeted out, there's a fine line between madness and genius, and he walks on the lines of both, because he's a fantastic keeper, but some of his decision making, the first time it happened, ball played over the top by the Algerians, I think it was Slimani who ran onto it, and Neuer just sprints out, misses the ball, runs aside him, and then just slides in and blocks it. I'm just thinking, you're better in defence than Mertesacker is. It's crazy, and if he's not careful, and I can't help thinking this throughout the entire game, he's going to get punished, and it's going to be brilliant when it happens, because he's going to be like, all right, maybe I should stop doing this then. And it's going to take a moment for him to be like, I should probably stop doing this running out lark. But it's entertaining to watch.
I did think Germany were very poor. Defensively, as we mentioned, they got cut out of position a lot, but a lot of they have Lahm in the centre of the kind of defensive midfield area, and I kind of like to see him used as an outlet for balls. And he was a little bit disappointing for me, but not only that, but I mean, Germany's long pass completion was like less than 50% from the back. Like, it felt like a lot of the time they were just pinging the ball up top, hoping to find someone. There was kind of a lot of balls, that rolled right the way over for goal kicks to Algeria, I noticed. Just from in their own half. I mean, there was that one kick which did pay off, which was the Neuer kind of kick boot out of his hands straight down the middle to Schürrle. But I just felt like Germany, they I don't want to say they lost their heads, but I just wanted them to keep hold of the ball and really kind of probe a little bit more. It seemed like they were panicking, like they were trying to force the play and force the opportunities to come their way.
Yeah, we should touch on Algeria. They started just like Nigeria did. Probably better than Nigeria did, actually. They started fantastically well.
Well, can we just talk about how they set up? Because no one really knew how they were going to set up. It was a bit... They have a lot of players who can play a lot of different positions for them. And I don't know if you've seen like the average position map of their players. It's particularly bizarre.
Oh, okay. Well, talk us through it, because I haven't got it in front of me.
It's like a 5 at the back, kind of. You've got 3 centre-backs, then 2 wing-backs. But then the wingers sit outside the wing-backs in this average position chart. So it's like having a wing-back and then defensive wingers, almost. And they kind of all like tuck in to make a line of 7 when they didn't have the ball. And then their Feghouli was just the out ball. Let's just ping it off to him on the right.
It was described by a few outlets as 5-1-3-1. Does that sound true?
5, maybe. Not off the average positions, but I can kind of see where they were going with that. But I kind of feel like the 3 was very spread out in midfield, and they kind of tucked into the gaps.
I was impressed with Slimani. We mentioned him on previous shows. He does a lot of work, a lot of doggy work. I think you'd call it. I was going
to say he just chases the ball, doesn't he? He hunts and he probes and he runs and he kind of provides them with a little bit of energy up top, which when you're playing the counter-attacking game you need. Yeah,
it was evident from the kickoff really that Algeria were going to. Oh, how did you rate the 2000th pass by Germany in the tournament?
Good? Oh, it was an excellent pass. Obviously, great. I was waiting for that moment.
Yeah. It was evident. It was mental. It was evident early on that Algeria's plan was to nip it over the back 4 and let Slimani run onto it and hold it up, and then wait for Feghouli, etc., to run forward and provide some help. And they did it very well. They were very effective at it. Germany, we touched on it a little bit earlier on. They don't play with natural fullbacks. They're playing Lahm just in front of the back 4, and they're playing Howardez at left back.
Yeah.
And it's just like, don't play Howardez, play a seasoned left back, and just play Philipp Lahm at right back, because you've got Schweinsteiger and Khedira who could just do that job quite well. You don't have to try and play like Bayern Munich to beat these teams.
Yeah.
And I just wish Germany would realise that.
Well, this game became the second game in Algeria's 13 World Cup match history where they've not conceded a goal in regular time. The only other time was against England in 2010, where it was 0-0, I believe.
Should have been in 2010? No, that should have been 2. What do you mean? You've lost me. What?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Okay, so before this game, Algeria had only ever kept 1 clean sheet in World Cup matches against England.
Yeah, that says a lot about us.
And then they got another one, obviously, in regular time yesterday, but because of the way stats work, it actually doesn't count as a clean sheet because of the extra 30 minutes. But it was kind of odd how for 90 minutes Germany just simply could not break them down, and they actually looked like they were the more likely team to concede.
I would agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
And there were a few times where Algeria just had to play 1 key pass and they just couldn't pick it out. I think it was Feghouli was the kind of criminal a lot of the times of just not finding that pass. He would hold up the ball on the odd occasion, and then Slimani would be making a run. He'd have runs outside him. I think it was Mandy down the right for him.
Yeah, they had the right wing back, though, didn't they?
Yeah,
Algeria.
I mean, you can't slate them at all. They played well. And what I was about to say was, it took 2 minutes into extra time where Germany just seemed to kind of go, oh crap, but it's 0-0 against Algeria. We actually need to play here.
Yeah, it was getting dark.
That goal,
and it was a good goal. Schürrle puts it in. It's interesting that he's been used as like an impact player, because he is for Chelsea as well. He doesn't start that well. Okay, I'm sure I'm going to be told differently by people in the comment section on YouTube. But to me, Schürrle has been deployed as more of a kind of an impact player, and it tends to work quite well. He's because obviously the decision for Yogi Löw was whether to bring on Klose, which everyone was calling for, or to bring on Schürrle, and they offer slightly different things. Although Klose is quite old now, he's not slow. Like he's still relatively nippy, but he went with Schürrle. He obviously thought they could exploit the tiredness of the Algerian backline, because Algeria did tire, which was a shame.
Yeah, no, you could see their legs go. I think Schürrle, as you mentioned, when he came on, he really did have a good impact on the team. He was able to he had that yard of pace, which kind of Algeria seemed to be lacking, particularly kind of from when he came on. Just going back to, I mentioned with Algeria, like they really struggle with their passes. They didn't actually make a pass into the Germany area defeat that was made.
I'll tell you why, though. I can tell you why that is.
Tell me why, Ben. Enlighten me.
Because Manuel Neuer had 21 touches of the football outside of his penalty area.
what if I was to tell you that of Algeria's attacking third passes, 24 out of 67 were successful?
That suggests the other ones were cleared up by Neuer, I guess.
A lot of them were out wide, but my big gripe with Algeria was just their inability to find the simple pass at times. Holding on to it for one too many touches, and we talk about how when you're playing a counter-attacking game, I think they had 33% possession. You have to make those chances. You have to take them, the chances that come your way. And for me, before you take them, you've got to actually get them into that kind of chance opportunity. And for me, just Algeria lack that cutting edge. I think if Slimani can get onto a few extra balls and actually find the ball, they maybe grab a few more on another day.
So Schürrle scored after 90 minutes, and 119 minutes just before the death of the game. Mesut Ozil scored they faff around with it. They did on numerous occasions. Muller was guilty of it a few times. Does he try and cross it in, or he has a shot and then it comes back out to him and he just smashes it in? Are you right, Jack?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the sirens to go. I'm just saying, Ben, keep talking.
All right, we're going to cut this. I think it should be kept in now because I've brought it up. Anyway, Mesut Ozil.
Is it over yet?
Minutes. Yeah, it's gone.
Excellent.
Volleyed it in, and that was kind of the game. And at that point, my dad went to bed because he was very tired. And then Algeria finally scored.
They scored, and then suddenly there was just this, oh God, can they get another?
Yeah, there were 60 seconds left, and it was like, oh.
Can I just say, my roommate Rob, he's not a massive fan of football, but whenever it's gone to extra time or penalties, I'll be like, oh, Rob, it could get a bit exciting. And he became an Algeria fan. He was there. He looks a bit Algerian, my roommate. He's not. He's from Hull. But he was there cheering on Algeria, and then, of course, after they scored, they had that one other header, and he was on his knees. Oh, he was on his knees cheering for Algeria to bang in the goal.
Okay, well, that sees Germany go through in a less than convincing fashion. Both games kind of went how I thought they'd go. Because both African teams came out of the blocks very quickly, but made it very difficult for the European Titans and ran them pretty close. Both teams will feel like they've been in the game. Germany probably more so as they went through to extra time. They've got a lot of work to do to beat the French, as have the French to beat the Germans. It's going to be a very exciting affair.
Got a stat for you, Ben.
Come Sunday, go on.
Are you ready for this? This was set this game that we're talking about. There have now been 27 goals scored by substitutes at this World Cup, which is a new
I heard that the other day when it was 23, and that was a record at that point. The record is increasing.
The record goes on.
Indeed. And so, shall we go to the Twitter question?
Let's go to the Twitter question of the day.
And then we shall... if you don't know what we're talking about, Jack, where can they answer the Twitter question?
For the Fan Show, we ask a question around midday every day that we're recording. Yeah. You can get your answers in and we read out the best ones.
So, the question today was, what was your favourite ever World Cup goal? There's been a couple of crackers. We were talking about Jimmy Rod's the other day, and Aaron Murray was straight in there. Jimmy Rod's this year. That's his favourite ever World Cup goal.
I love Jimmy Rod.
I'll keep going through. Maradona pops up a few times. Not his Hand of God one. The one where he took on England's entire team. Jack, what's yours? Because a few people have gone with it.
Yeah, mine. Joe Cole scoring against Sweden in 2006.
Yeah, Kieran had that, as did Boris. A few people had that.
I mean, it's not the craziest goal ever, but the thing that made it memorable for me was it was one of my mate's birthday parties. So we went around his house and we all had inflatable hammers, like the novelty England hammers that you have. So they're smashing the crap of each other after Joe Cole scores, and then everything got broken in the lounge. Just everything. The sofa split. It was a nightmare. It's tragic.
Lex said Chalobah's for South Africa when it went goal Bafana Bafana. It was the opening goal of that World Cup. It was great.
That was so over the top, but I loved it.
That's brilliant.
Why can't we? Did you see the Colombia commentary for when James Rodriguez scored? Jimmy Rod, sorry. Have you heard the commentary? Check it out. Go on YouTube, find it. I'm just sat there thinking, why can't we have commentators like that? So we have Andy Townsend going, it's pretty average.
Yeah, that's a fantastic goal, Clive. Now let me just get back to my coffee. That's what he's like. James on the Twitter said Van Persie's, I think he means the header versus Spain.
That was a swan dive of a goal.
That was one of the better goals. Mr. Kingy said Torsten Frings' goal in the 2006 World Cup. If you don't remember this one, it was I think it was in the opening game, I'm inclined to say. Schweinsteiger cuts it back on a free kick. Frings from about 35-40 yards launches one into the top right-hand corner. Absolute beauty. As I mentioned, a few people went for Joe Cole. Ryan Marston, it's just all he's written is they think it's all over. It is now. I'm not sure he was at the game, but he may well have been.
Do you want to know what my favourite answer is? It's
Go on.
I hope I get this right. Tobias Wunsch. He's German, and he said Lampard's goal.
Yeah.
He's just trolling.
Yeah.
I had to check he was German. He had a very German name. I'm sorry if I said it wrong, but I tried.
James, otherwise known as Job to me and you, said Maxis versus Mexico. That was when he chest volleyed. It was a little bit like Jimmy Rod's.
It was a Panini sculpture of a goal.
A Panini sculpture
of a
goal.
Well, that was in extra time, wasn't it? I think it was 1-1 against Mexico going into extra time, and we talked about this beforehand because I was going through some of the goals that people were mentioning. And my favourite bit about this goal was the fact that when it went in, it suddenly became incredibly over the top. You know, like if you're having a rap battle and someone wins it and everyone kind of goes crazy. It was like that, except he scores.
Do you have a lot of rap battles?
Yeah, I have them all the time, mate.
Oh, okay.
Me and my homies on the street, and you know, it's like, oh, well, it was kind of like that. Like Maxi Rodriguez scores, he runs to the bench, and all the play, it just cuts to the kind of bench, the camera, and it's just like 10 or 20 players on the pitch with bibs, like raving with him, going mental.
We should do it. Shall I tell you mine? A few people have said it. Tony and James also said this one, but Michael Owens versus Argentina. I know it's kind of obvious and easy to say that, but that literally was my favourite ever World Cup goal because it was just look at this! Look how great this is. It was the classic Beckham to Owen's goal. I know I've missed out Heskey, obviously, because he was not playing in that tournament.
That was the Germany World Cup.
Yeah, I know it was, but I'm changing it for that particular moment because it was Beckham and Owen were kind of the young pin-ups of that tournament, and they combined to score one of England's greatest ever World Cup goals. Was that better than Joe Cole's goal? Yeah, it was. Of course, it was.
I remember back when we scored World Cup goals.
Should we do it? Yeah, they were great. Someone did actually put in the responses Wayne Rooney's this World Cup. Yeah, it's great. Noble mentions go to Bergkamp's against Argentina in '98. Unforgettable.
Yeah, that was
chest control goal. Ronaldinho against David Seaman. You were tempted by that one.
I was tempted by that one. I was like, I can't really say my favourite goal was against England, even though how old would I have been then? I would have been like 9.
2002.
So it would have been 9. I remember that goal going in, and everyone else in my class was like heartbroken because it was in Japan, wasn't it? So it was like during school time, and I was there just celebrating.
Why?
Because I thought it was amazing.
Wow, I'm disgusted.
I was one of those kids who had the Scorpion Adidas balls for that World Cup, and was one of the Brazil kids.
All right. Well, one more mention. Cambiaso's goal when Argentina put together I think I looked it up before the show. It's about 604 passes before that goal. And the weirdest thing about that goal, I watched it back before we started recording. Cambiaso's got hair, which is now weird to think.
Wait, he had hair?
Yeah. Cambiaso.
I can't imagine him with hair.
No, you can't.
What colour was his hair?
Like a browny kind of blondie kind of colour.
Sorry, this is incredibly.
It was before, it was at the point where he knew that after this World Cup he best cut it. And I think he probably did after that World Cup. But if you don't believe me, go and look at it. Cambiaso's got hair.
I'm having a look at my word.
You enjoying that?
Yeah.
You can tell.
He looks like he's from Steps. It's like a boy band.
It's at the back end of his hair, though, isn't it? As in, it's coming towards the end of his career on a football pitch.
When he had a little bit left, it kind of looked like Alan Shearer.
Don't you dare say that ever again. Shall we talk about today's games? There's
Shall we?
Absolute crackers. I've been excited for these two games since the group stage was over. This is my most exciting day so far.
Which do you want to start with? Should we start with the earlier tie, the Argentina?
Oh, yes.
We take it on the Swiss.
We'll take on the real Messi versus Switzerland's version. Because do you remember when Shaqiri was always called the Swiss Messi? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, that was a thing for ages. Argentina are probably going to be without Aguero again. Lavezzi will probably replace him. Sabella, the Argentine coach, has got a decision to make. Will he change his 4-3-3 to a 4-4-2 and play Messi slightly behind Higuain with Di Maria one side, etc., Lavezzi the other, Gago, etc.? You know what I'm talking about. You've seen them before. Or will they stick with a 4-3-3, play Messi one side, Higuain through the middle, Di Maria somewhere?
I think they'll stick with the 4-3-3 personally. I think to change it would be a bit odd, particularly when you consider the fact that Messi's got 4 in his 3 appearances so far.
It might become a really fluid 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, well, I was thinking that actually, but it's kind of like Messi. Did he not score in? I want to say it was 7 World Cup games he didn't score in that he played in for Argentina, and now he's in hot form.
He scored in every single one, hasn't he?
Yeah. So I'm kind of thinking. I feel like the system they're playing now is a contributing factor towards that, and to change it would be a bit of an odd decision.
Switzerland are without their backup striker Mario Govanovic. I've tried that. I've tried my best there. Who tore his anterior cruciate ligament in training, which is
pretty heartbreaking, ain't it?
Shaqiri will probably be supporting Dumic
Well, he's in form, isn't he? He got a hat-trick last game.
But no, I've been looking forward to this game for ages. I think it has the potential to be a real showstopper. Belgium-USA, which we're going to talk about in a moment, is also one of those games. But I do think the Swiss could cause a lot of problems in Argentina's attacking third, because Argentina aren't the most kind of solid side, as Iran showed, and Nigeria showed, to be fair. So I think this could be one hell of a game. I don't really rate the Swiss backline either, though. Sender Shinjuru aren't the best defenders in the world. Liechtenstein is pretty good, though. So as long as they don't attack that side and go down the other side, they might be fine. How do you see it going score-wise, or have you got anything to add on the context of the game?
I want to go 1-0 Switzerland. The reason I'm going to say it is, I know Switzerland conceded 5 against France, but Switzerland have kept 7 clean sheets in their last 10 World Cup games.
So you think it'll be 1-0? Yeah, but how often have they played a big side?
Fairly often.
You don't know, do you?
I don't have the technical terms. And the other thing is, Argentina kept 65% possession, but I kind of feel like Switzerland are very good at hitting teams on the break, as they showed against Honduras, where they were incredibly clinical. So I think it comes down to, I think it'll go 0-0 extra time, or Switzerland will take one of the opportunities that falls their way.
Do you? I think it'll be... We've not seen a quarter-final hammering yet. And I don't want to just say this because they're Argentina, but I can see... I just think because of the Swiss's kind of... They weren't able to get themselves up for a big game against France, and that was the game I thought they would really be a force against the French. And
they'd be up for it.
Yeah, and they just won. And I feel like the same thing may happen. They may be a little bit overawed by Messi's Argentina, and I feel like Argentina might win like 4-1. But it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a really good game, because I think the Swiss are a lot better than people... Like, people seem to think because the Swiss aren't doing incredibly, but they're quite high in the FIFA rankings, that they're not actually that good at all. But in reality, they're actually very good. So I really want them to perform well in this game. So yeah, like I say, 4-1 I'll go with. We're halfway through today's games, so I'm just going to quickly say, if you'd like to predict the scores for these games and the amount of yellow cards that are happening, to win one of the fantastic DVD prizes which are on offer, those include an Adrian Charles DVD, Goal 1, England's World Cup Glory Men, which was a prize selected yesterday, then on Twitter or in the YouTube comments, let us know your score predictions. We need the 2 results, after extra time, whatever, it doesn't matter, and the amount of yellow cards do you think we'll find. If you get that right, you'll win a choice of those DVDs. On to Belgium USA. I'll let you begin.
Where to begin here? Well, Belgium have progressed from the group stage in 6 of their last 7 appearances at the World Cup. So it's not a surprise that they're here, although this is their golden generation now, isn't it? And the last time these teams met was in 1930, where it was both their first World Cup games, and the USA ran out 3-0 winners.
Your stats today have been magnificent, by the way. Can I just compliment you on that?
That's a great one, ain't it? Anyway, in terms of where I see this game going, USA, they went down with a bit of a whimper against Germany. I'm worried for them. Off the back of their first 2 games, I was quite optimistic. Obviously, losing 1-0 to Germany is nothing to kind of be too ashamed of, but I just feel like Belgium... I don't know, I feel like the way that they play in terms of their pacey wingers, in terms of really trying to, force the play, I think it'll be interesting to see if Origi starts. I'm a little bit worried for the USA at the back.
Can I make you feel better about the USA?
Make me feel better.
Altidor's back.
Yes!
He picked up a hamstring injury. He's missed the last 2 games, but he's back, and he's back with a bang.
Do you think they're going to go back to their starting system then? Just... do you reckon they'll play how they because obviously they moved Dempsey up top, didn't they, the USA? So I'm kind of curious to see what they're gonna are they gonna go back to their original system?
Sorry,
bless you.
Thank you. Are you gonna keep that in?
Yeah. That's the power of Altidore, ladies and gentlemen.
He's
risen. He's risen.
Yeah. He's got rid of his injury and he's given me a cold, it seems. He's their only doubt for the game. Whether they go back to playing with him depends on his fitness, I guess. Maybe they'll get 60 out of him. Maybe they'll bring him on if they need a goal. But then if you bring him on needing a goal, that suggests you might be going into extra time. And I'm not sure they want to risk him in that capacity. So it might be worth starting him, see how he gets on for an hour. If he can carry on, let him carry on. If not, bring on the guy who's been replacing him in the last couple of games. If he doesn't play, then Klinsmann will just name an unnamed side. You weren't horrendous against Germany. I think we mentioned after the last time they played that we really like Jermaine Jones. So it'd be interesting to see how he handles the kind of fluidity of the Belgium attack.
Yeah,
Belgium are without company and Vermaelen. Yeah, Belgium have got their own problems. No company, no Vermaelen.
Altidor's going to have a field day. He's going to have a field day, Altidor. He's loving it.
They're doubtful, so there's a chance one or both of them could play. Company is probably more likely than Vermaelen. Defoe's out because he got sent off against South Korea. They're without a couple of more players, but not players to really write home about. Yeah. How do we see it going, though? That's the big question.
2-0 Belgium is my prediction. Belgium, their last 6 World Cup goals have come in the last 20 minutes. USA have conceded in every game against European opposition. Actually, no, it's not every. Last 16 games they've played against European opposition. So I'm kind of sat here thinking, I'm worried for the USA. I feel it's going to... If they can get a goal in the first half and take the lead, I think they might cling on for it.
That's interesting you say that, because I didn't know the stat you just gave in regards to Belgium scoring late on, although they have done it quite a lot in this tournament. But I think America will take the lead, everyone will be ridiculously excited, and then Belgium will take it 2-1.
Yeah, I can see something not too dissimilar.
That would be a great game. That'd be a really good game.
Yeah. I'm worried for the USA. I think they could do it. I think this is actually a lot closer than people might be making it. I feel as if Belgium perhaps haven't performed to expectations so far this World Cup. I mean, the bar's been set very high for them, but I do feel like they've maybe fallen a little bit short of expectations in terms of their actual results themselves, and this is a real chance for them to prove themselves. Yeah. I think Klinsmann's really got his team well drilled. I think the reintroduction of Altidor maybe gives him a little bit more of a attacking presence, as odd as that might sound.
Speaking of attacking presence, I want to talk about the Lukaku Origi thing, because Lukaku's in my fantasy team, and he's had a pretty appalling World Cup. Origi's come in and he's been decent. So where do you think Wilmots will go? Do you think he'll stick with Lukaku and try and give him another game, knowing that the Americans are quite physical? Or will he bring in Origi and hope that he continues his kind of shining light form? I think he'll go Lukaku, personally. I think he'll go with experience.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I can see Lukaku playing. I actually think one player who perhaps... I know he's been instrumental for them, but I feel like he can contribute more is Hazard. I think Wilmots has actually said something about that this week, saying that he wants him to impose himself. I think the word was impose. It sounds very grand, doesn't it? He wants him to impose himself on the match. He did get, to be fair, he's set up 2 goals so far, Hazard. But it's kind of like... I feel like he's kind of had that moment of quality to put the ball in, but between that, he's been quite quiet. Like, you expect him to be a player who can really offer them something out wide. And yes, he's set up 2 goals, but for me, he's not been enough of a presence going forward.
No. So that kind of sums it up. You gave it a score prediction, didn't you?
Yeah, 1-0.
1-0.
1-0 Belgium, last 20-minute goal.
Okay, I think it'll be 2-1 to Belgium. I think America will take the lead. So, like I said before, get your predictions in on the Twitter, on the YouTube, at ForTheFans Show, and www.youtube.com/ForTheFans.
I just realised I meant 2-0 Belgium. I'm changing my mind.
Change it whenever you like. I kind of mentioned a couple of our social media things, so the only one to say is www.forthefanshow.com. You can find all our links to everything on there. We're also available on iTunes if you're watching on the YouTube. We're available on YouTube if you're listening on the iTunes. If you are listening on iTunes or you're not, please go over and rate the show. It's quite easy to do. Give it a 5-star rating and leave a little comment.
It helps us. Even if you've got constructive feedback, go leave it. Maybe we say something too often. We know the catchphrases we say too often.
There's a great review on there, though. My favourite review is pathetic, something. The hosts are awful. That should be our tagline on our website. Ben. Thank you.
It's a light-hearted look at the World Cup. We are not Robbie Savage.
I enjoy the horrible reviews because they make me chuckle. I shouldn't really be saying that.
His name's Squeaky Dog. Now I feel a dog's written a bad review about us, Ben. What does that say? We're amateurs.
Well, you are a bitch. Sorry, Mrs. Jack. I know you hate it.
Should we end things there?
Let's end it there.
Thank you for watching, guys.
We'll see you in a bit. From me, Ben, my co-host Jack.
We're gonna nail this outro eventually. I swear.
If you keep doing this.
We'll have it by the end of the World Cup.
You've just ruined it again.
No, I haven't.